Joining us now, Aaron Nagler from Cheese TV. He is, of course, as always, brought to you by Checks Notes. Oh, Josh, look at this. He's brought to us by Miller Lite Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference. And by Rodgers Behavioral Health. Good morning, Nags, you 50-year-old weirdo. What was that all about?
I knew that wasn't going to escape your purview. Oh, man.
I saw on Twitter that apparently Pat McAfee, the high pope of all things cool, called you a 50-year-old weirdo, which you said, A, must have been a Rodgers scouting report, and B, fair.
I mean, fair.
A bit of self-effacement to diffuse the sting of the punch. When did Pat say that, and why?
Wow, this is a long story. There's too much. I will sum up to quote Princess Bride. He said it yesterday on his show because after the coupling of the domination of the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving in front of the entire world, and then 24 hours later watching the complete debacle that is the New York Jets, right. I resurfaced a commentary from him back in March when he was in the thick of covering, and I use that term very loosely, the potential trade of Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets, where he just went kind of, I don't know, short-circuited, man, because Pat is an up dude. I really like what Pat does I like the way he goes about it. Like, he's usually really positive and gasses people up and is understands that, man, this is a tough gig that the NFL players are kind of doing, and the people around the NFL. Like, he's always positive. But this one moment, man, he went in on Brian Gutekunst, questioning his intelligence and how he hadn't proven anything. And it felt like really similar to some of the stuff we've heard coming out of Rodgers' camp back in 2020. And it really felt like Rodgers had kind of poured poison in his ear. So I just kind of highlighted that, right? I'm just like,
if I recall, Nags, it was Hawk who said, AJ Hawk said, well, they're both smart guys, Douglas and Goody.
Well, Ian Rappaport.
And Pat said,
yeah.
Oh, okay, Rappaport, yeah. And so Pat said, oh, really? Is Goody smart?
Instantly. He said, we're just assuming Gutekunst is a smart human being. We're just assuming Gutekunst is smart.
Right. Yeah, and that was what made a lot of us go, huh? Like, our ears perked up, like, weird, out of character.
Out of character. That's the thing, yeah.
And very desperate, very much like he's stupid. Like,
yeah. Like, he doesn't know what he's in over his head. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, look, and if it was just that, I'd been fine. Like, I probably never would have brought it up again. But back a couple months ago when they were in the midst of their 4-game losing streak and looking pretty pathetic on national television, I think it was after the Monday night game against the Raiders, they did this whole thing on Monday, like Packers fan vibe check, and Ty Schmidt, who's a good dude, he's on the set there, and he's a huge Packers fan, and he was talking about, oh, yeah, it's real hard to watch these games. And Pat literally mentioned me by name and said, oh, but Aaron Nagler told me that, the Packers got a plan, which they do, which I think you see coming to fruition now, which was the whole point of me drudging this all up again, because I'm like, the Packers have a plan. You may not agree with how they're going about it, but they have a plan. They're smart people. Like, the idea that Brian Gutekunst, doesn't know what he's doing or is in over his head, and the fact that it got personal really bugged the hell out of me.
You know what I think here, Josh, is the real net of this is that Aaron Nagler has a 1-bedroom studio with bath in Pat McAfee's head.
I think so too.
With the bath too.
Yeah.
Not just
I can stay overnight.
Yeah. You got a little place in there because this is multiple contact points where he would not need to necessarily tank with you. I will say, Nags, from my own personal standing, and this does not make me a good person, but I'm a fan of sports and Schadenfreude. This whole Jets situation, I am the embodiment of the meme of the guy with the folding bag chair who strides to the sideline and pops it out with one arm. I am all about watching this with the Jets. Does that make me a bad person? Because
not at all.
All of Rodgers' cronies, the buddy system, is just been a complete debacle.
Yeah, but
why
Czabe,
they don't make good GMs, and
no, exactly.
The NFL is not a buddies trip. Here, let's repeat that. The NFL is not a buddies trip. There. Say it over and over
What
again.
blows my mind is when Rodgers had his, great moment of being upset back in 2020, and then he had that interview on ESPN where he said, it's about the people. And, the things had to change around Green Bay because the way they treated, it's about the people. You know what? Being a professional NFL personnel person, it is literally not about the people. It is the one gig where you have to divorce yourself from the person and just look at the player and treat it as such. And Rodgers wanted, quote, the people, otherwise known as his people, with him in New York, has absolutely sunk that franchise for another year at least, if not longer.
You talk about the people, right? Like, I think the coaching staff is about the people, but the front office
is. Yeah, because that's a relationship, especially a day-to-day relationship, right?
Absolutely. Your day-to-day is how that matters. But as far as the front office, now, should they be friendly to each other? Should they have conversations occasionally? Like, when you get to a superstar, absolutely. Like, I'm all for that. Maybe they didn't have enough conversations.
Right.
However, you can't be forced to sign guys and have a say. Players just they're not there, and I think that's the thing that I look at with Aaron is so far Goody has removed that from Jordan Love. He hasn't had to because Jordan hasn't been good enough. You don't need to include Jordan in these conversations.
Yep.
However, with the way Jordan's playing, with the way things are, trending, Zay, we talked about it. Do you look at giving Jordan the long-term extension, the whole amount of money? Like,
yeah, that's the question,
that's
right?
where we're at with it. It's crazy. Like,
it's tough because you want to. I think you look at the body of work over the last month, you see where it's going, especially since he's going to be growing with these guys. I mean, the guys he's throwing to are all young. They're all cheap. You're going to be together for at least 3 years minimum as a group. You want to get Jordan locked in. Here's the thing. If it and when it happens, because I suspect they will at some point, probably not till this offseason, but when they do it, man, there's going to be sticker shock around Packers fandom. People are going to freak out. That is going to happen.
I brought that up. I said my new panic is that we've missed the window for getting him at anything reasonable because QB1s in this league cost $50 million a year.
Daniel Jones has got 40 per, right?
Right. Whether you want a damn thing or not, they're that expensive. It's crazy. By the way, according to Ken Ingalls, the first, according to his research and people he's talked to, they can extend Love is May 4th.
Right, this offseason. Yep. Which is crazy, right? Because it's a situation that's never occurred before, especially with the new CBA. Like you can't sit here and go, well, you just follow this precedent because there is none.
Can I say one more thing quick about the Rodgers and everything happening with the Jets? Doesn't it kind of seem like this is one more failed attempt to be like Brady? Like,
oh wow, I hadn't thought of that, but kind of. I mean, the difference, of course, is that Brady was
trying to the whole time, want to play as long as Brady did. All these other things. Brady goes to Tampa.
Wins
he comes in. He gets
there.
to be GM. He tells them what players he wants. It works.
Yep.
Rodgers goes, well, I'm going to do that too. It did not work.
The difference is Brady actually went and wanted them to sign like guys who could contribute and were good players. Yeah. I mean, they weren't signing the ghost of Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a totally different kind of assembly of talent.
Up for that lunatic Antonio Brown because he was his buddy, because
he wanted to win. Exactly.
Right.
He took personal reputational damage to do so. But
in that case, it was exactly not about the people. Again, my point.
He was the worst people, but boy, could he catch.
But he could run routes and catch the football 100%.
Yes. I think Brady is wired different, Josh, than Rodgers.
Well, yeah.
I just do.
I
don't know if Rodgers is chasing Brady because they're just totally differently wired.
And he would deny it. Rodgers would deny it. Too.
Yeah.
He would say, absolutely not. I have no blah, 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 blah.
But we also don't know what this year would have been. This narrative has turned this way because he got hurt. Let's be honest, guys. Like, I mean, there was some talent on that side, and that defense was really good. Like, the Jets have won football games with trash.
With nothing at quarterback.
Trash.
Yeah.
Like, right? And I think – so that gets me to my question to you. Like, we watched the game last night. But you want to talk about trash.
Jesus.
It's trash. Like, where do you think this – yeah, it was. Where do you think the state of the NFL is? And it's just an overall question because we've had almost – what is it, say 50 quarterbacks play, something to that number? Like,
50 starters. There'll be more to come. Scoring is down.
Scoring is definitely down.
There's a number of what I call ghost ships on the ocean that are just without crew floating.
Isn't that most
to me,
NFL
it's because
teams,
the
though?
quarterbacks just aren't good, right? Though,
yeah,
where
some
do you
of
feel
that.
like the state of the NFL is? Like we're talking about wild card, and we're talking about playoff teams. None of them are 500. 8, 9 probably will get in.
Yeah, there's a lot
bad.
of mediocrity, but that's the NFL by design. That's their whole kind of MO, right? They want all these teams to have similar records going down the stretch because it makes it, quote, so exciting. The problem is you get to watch games like last night. I do think for the most part, I think the NFL is in a pretty transitional moment, especially at the quarterback position. I mean, you've had a lot of old guard, whether it is Brady, Rodgers towards the end, Breeze is now done. You know what I mean? Like you've got all these old, really excellent, fantastic quarterbacks that we watched for over a decade who are, phasing out. But there's a lot of young, exciting talent. I just think like I said, we're in a transitional point where a lot of these young guys are building their legends. Like, look at Jalen Hurts, man. I could watch that cat play football any day of the week. Like, he is fun to watch. That offense is fun to watch. But, yeah, it's not like you get the games where, like last night, that are just – you got a quarterback who's probably in and over his head in Josh Dobbs. You got Fields who just doesn't seem to be figuring it out. But for every one of those, like, look, the Colts are a perfect example. Like, they got Richardson in the draft, and he looked very promising and exciting until – well, he got hurt. Well, who do they bring in as their backup? They got Minshew, who keeps them afloat, makes those games playable at least. You know what I mean? Like, I do, like, every once in a while, you'll get on a game like last night on national television, and you're like, woof. But for the most part, it's a league that's in transition, but I think there's still enough viable quarterback play where you can enjoy most games on a Sunday.
I still loved last night's game. I don't know what anyone
Well, it was hilarious. I'll give you that.
Well, it was close. It mattered for us.
Yep.
It sounded live.
There were stakes.
Building with the fake snow, as you know, Nagler.
The plastic franchise out there in Minnesota. Oh, can I just you know what I was crying laughing about last night? So, like the Vikings couldn't generate any offense. They kept turning the ball over. And then at one point, I think it was in the second quarter, they got a first down via penalty and sounded the horn. Is there a more perfect distillation of what a plastic garbage franchise you are than, not only do you celebrate injuring Aaron Rodgers with a full page spread in the local paper, but also you celebrate the fact you can't move the ball, but hey, we got a first down, sound the horn. It's just a plastic franchise.
Now, are
man.
you
They're
sure
terrible.
at Lambeau, when they get a first down by penalty, the announcer doesn't do the classic, and that's another Packers first down? Are you sure?
That's homespun, good form entertainment. That's all that is. That's community. That's totally different.
That's
community. It's the same. It's the same.
He knows.
It's totally different. Absolutely 1,000% different.
It's the same thing.
Like
probably should
it's
do
the community.
It's a communal experience.
I think, the thing about the NFL is there's too many games, the season's too long, too many countries. The athletes are too finely tuned in that they blow a hammy, they're out.
Yeah, that last part I very much agree with. These guys are way too tightly wound.
There's too many rules. There's too much of an effort to include rules on safety that cannot be properly adjudicated.
Correct.
There's too much replay, and there's too much media scrutiny about every little thing. And so this aura of
Cheesehead TV may be contributing to that last part, but yeah, I agree. There's no doubt. It's no doubt. But hey, look, the rules thing is like the way the lawyers have taken over the NFL is what's really ruining it. I mean, as far as you've got not only do you have a Byzantine rule book that legit maybe 3 people have a comprehensive knowledge of, but then you have people on the field with these world-class athletes trying to adjudicate it, who, by the way, are part-timers. Like, can we get this $20 billion business to have full-time officials, please, rather than, Bill from Johnson & Johnson & Johnson, who does this as an off-season gig? Like, it just blows my mind.
Triple Johnson there.
Yeah, you better believe it. Triple Johnson, call them for your
All right.
information.
Today on Carry the G Radio, noon to 2, what are you guys going to riff on?
Well, I'm sure Billy's going to give me all amounts of hell because I was very despondent for like the last month about this Thanksgiving game. I was certain the Packers were going to ruin my holiday, and guess what? They most certainly did not. So I'm sure Billy will make me eat crow. I'm looking forward to it.
It was like Gene Kranz said, gentlemen, this is going to be our finest hour, and sure enough, it was an Apollo 13 classic that warmed the hearts. The turkey tasted so good. All right, Mr. Nagler, today we'll hear you at noon. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Have a good